Hi everyone, my name is Spifficol, and today is January 1st, 2025, as of recording. How was your new year? Oh my gosh, I was so hyped. I've literally written out my resolution of everything I want to do, but that's not the topic of this video. The topic of this video is a drawing that I have made 2 days prior, which you're currently seeing recorded. Now, I've had a long battle with my art and my art style. It was only maybe 2 years ago that I said to myself that I would never learn how to draw hands, I would never learn how to draw full bodies, and eventually that had subsided when I started using, and shout out to, artist Melon Soup's references on Pinterest. Although I am so thankful for Melon Soup's art, I'm so serious, these references took me out of my comfort zone and improved my art by so much. It was very obvious that I really didn't have a full grasp on how to draw full bodies. Let me explain.
You clicked on this video because the title was something probably along the lines of why you need to use photo references and ditch drawn references. And truly, I do believe this. Although Melon Soup's references were good, they had lines dictating how exactly you should draw each line. It took me out of my original comfort zone of only drawing bust shots and instead put me in a new comfort zone where I literally could only draw with Melon Soup references. Isn't to blame Melon Soup by any means, but it meant that every single drawing that I was making was kind of almost a rip from Melon Soup's page book. All of my drawings relied on Melon Soup's anatomy, and if I couldn't find any good references on Melon Soup's page, then I couldn't draw, period. And this really did hurt my art development, because even though, yes, obviously, I had gone from drawing bust shots to being able to draw full bodies and half bodies and hands, it meant that I had a severe lack of poses that I could do. References do help you, don't get me wrong, but if anyone was looking at my portfolio of the art that I drew, they would only see what Melon Soup has already shown to us, and this can be applied to any other artist. Let's say there's an artist somewhere out there named Baklava Beans or something, and let's say that Baklava Beans is only drawing references from one specific artist. Would you rather look at Baklava Beans' artwork and follow them, or would you rather follow someone who draws from numerous sources and can draw multiple things, multiple references? Who are you looking for? Because if you're looking at Baklava Beans' portfolio, what you're going to be seeing is just art based off of someone else's work. And that's not to say you can't use references from any artist in general, but it is to say that if you rely, like I did, on someone else's references all the time, your art is gonna look pretty stagnant and almost unoriginal, especially when the references are unique enough for people to look at it and realize, oh, I've seen that reference on Pinterest. And then the next art is, oh, I've also seen that reference on Pinterest. And then the next art is, wow, wait a minute, all these references come from the same artist on Pinterest. I used Melon Soup's references so much that the other day I came across a really good mouthwashing fan art, and I realized these are all Melon Soup references. So my first point is that when people see your artwork, they will immediately see the artist that you used the reference of. Whether you like it or not, your art and how you draw the body will look like the art style of the artist who you are referencing. For myself, when I'm able to immediately recognize the drawing reference that someone uses, and I know that this is true for other people, it can almost seem very uncanny. My second point that I want to make is that you technically are going to be learning other artists' anatomy mistakes, because whether we want to admit it or not, our art in some way, in the littlest way or in the biggest way, will probably have some kind of flaw in regards to our anatomy. Of course, there are stylistic purposes, like someone drawing ears really big, which technically is still inaccurate to anatomy, but it's a deliberate choice. With copying art references all the time is that you will end up copying certain artists' flaws. In my case, and this isn't an insult to Melon Soup in particular, if Melon Soup had made any flaws, I wouldn't know, because I would have just been copying Melon Soup's art all the dang time. And in someone else who uses multiple art references, they would be making a different mistake each time copied from another artist. Do you understand what I'm getting at? Because I don't know if I'm phrasing this particularly well. Essentially, will become a mixture of different artists and the mistakes that they make, or even possibly they could be making stylistic choices in their artwork that you don't necessarily know is a stylistic choice, and you just think that that's a part of anatomy. So an artist could be drawing long legs all the time in their art references, and if you draw that, you could be drawing that style without knowing that it's a deliberate choice, and therefore when you try to make a drawing of your own without a reference that they had made, you'll be drawing legs very weird and very awkward because you've mentalized this as an actual art anatomy thing without realizing that this is a stylistic choice that it makes, and you'll be drawing those legs over and over again like, what am I doing wrong? Why does this look weird? I'm literally following anatomy. Contrast to this, when I am drawing real life art, although I am making certain mistakes possibly, I'm basing those off of human art. I'm basing that off of what real life people look like, real life photos of humans. And therefore, over time, while I draw, I will get better at drawing and I will be able to spot those mistakes and match it accordingly to human anatomy. Although this can be done with art references, when you're copying art references from one particular person, you're probably not going to be able to do that naturally, and it will have to be a deliberate choice that you make because you will be copying how they draw and their choices over and over again. My third point is kind of like my second point, but a little bit different in that you won't really be learning anatomy, because I'm going to use Melon Soup as an example. Again, this isn't an insult to Melon Soup. Melon Soup, I loved you and I love you still, and you changed my art for the way better. But with Melon Soup's art, you may notice that she uses a lot of lines on her artwork and her references, which is supposed to designate exactly where you're supposed to draw certain lines, how long those lines are, so you can draw everything in parts. Although I am doing that and I am copying it eloquently, that doesn't necessarily mean that when I go to draw without a reference, I will know where those certain things are, because I relied on Melon Soup's lines to tell me where everything is. You can literally see a Melon Soup, me using our Melon Soup reference, the last video I made, which is crazy, by the way. Although I always draw references that showed me where every line is and how long every line should be, that doesn't mean that that's going to translate when I go to make art of my own without any references. All that means is that I've become so reliant on those lines and those guidelines that I don't know what to do when I become independent out of that. And I do think that all artists, of course, should use references for their artwork. I just think that for all of these reasons, it's way more reliable to work on photo references, which will have you learn the correct ways on your own, instead of drawn references, which can be unreliable. I remember when my best friend was telling me about her art, and I remember her telling me about all the ways in which she has improved by using photo references. I remember hearing her and actually in my heart and in my head agreeing with her. I knew that she was right, but my problem, which I think is a general problem with using drawing references, was that I truly believed that I couldn't do that I just didn't have it in me to use photo references. And it was so limiting. That is such a limiting belief, and it is so false. I want to point that out right now. That is the falsest thing ever, and if you're saying that right now, snap out of it. I just failed at snapping my fingers. Okay, there we go. Although I was agreeing with her and I told her, yeah, you're totally right. I was like, dang, but I can't do that. And you know what? In this drawing that you're currently seeing be recorded, I decided to do exactly that. And oh my gosh, the change between what my drawing before that was, the drawing you're seeing now was so drastic. Although I always draw cartoony art, I had always been very insecure about my art because it wasn't really grounded in anything. It was a style that I felt like I was too attached to, and I felt like every art style I had was that cartoony style that I never grew out of. And maybe my next video will be about art styles, who even knows? But I certainly didn't like my art style, and I think a big part of that was because I had gone so accustomed to using certain cartoon references that my art style was stuck in that stage. And of course, I'm not a full-on realism. Although I have tried, I haven't ever finished a realistic drawing. I didn't feel like that art that I was making was a true representation of me and how I wanted to draw. But using photo references has allowed me to break free from the limits that I have once had, and instead has allowed me to have full control over the way I'm drawing. Because again, when you use drawn references, what you're really doing is you're captivating someone else's style and their stylistic choices. So I was like, why doesn't this feel like art I actually want to create? Babe, that's because you've been using references from one user all the time. Your art style now looks like theirs and their artistic expression and not your own. That's why. If you finished this video and you made it all the way through, I want to give you some love and I want to give you some positivity with a happy little quote. There truly is no limit to how good your art can be. There is no final stage to art improvement, and your art will always improve if you keep drawing. It is impossible to not improve, and although there may be setbacks and there may be times where it looks like your art is degressed, I've learned that every time it seems like your art has degressed, the next drawing you make will be absolutely fabulous. Thank you for watching, and remember to like and subscribe.